So, we're pretty dang certain that Giga Texas is kicking off production with a standard range dual motor Model Y. That confused a lot of people because we weren't really sure how to interpret and why exactly Tesla would make a model like that before. Pretty much dual motor or all-wheel drive always was associated with the longer range packs. I'm fairly certain the reason Tesla moved forward with this interesting spec is because they realized demand is off the charts for their regular long-range models, so there was not much of a point in making a even longer range in the future, but they knew that because production capacity was going to be lower, they didn't want to make a vehicle that was substantially cheaper or even that much better of a deal than the current offerings from Fremont, so intentionally priced it at $60,000, not that great a range, and the dual motor all-wheel drive just kind of helps justify that $60,000 price, which for some reason they still have not published on the website, but it absolutely got me thinking about the Model 3 and the fact that it's actually the only rear-wheel drive vehicle that Tesla currently sells, unless you count the Cyberquad for kids. But as demand continues to grow, and as Tesla on their last shareholder deck mentioned that nearly half of the vehicles they had delivered in the past quarter had the lithium iron phosphate chemistry already, I'm starting to wonder if Tesla wants to raise prices further on the Model 3 lineup by introducing a spec very similar to what they've already introduced from Giga Texas, because they know, even though it's probably very cheap to build and they have very thick margins, they can get away with easily charging $60,000 a pop for that entry-level Model Y. I'm starting to think it might only be a matter of time before Tesla and Elon realizes they could probably get away with charging a heck of a lot more for the LFP Model 3 if they opt to make it a dual motor. So suddenly you get the all-wheel drive in a sedan, you improve the 0 to 60 time to probably be closer to 4.8 seconds, and you continue using your iron-based cathode because you know that there's plenty of people willing to pay for a vehicle as long as they know they can charge it to 100% daily, and there's gonna be companies like Hertz buying that option regardless because it's the cheapest Tesla you can get. Right now, the dual-motor long-range Model 3 is going for $56,000, far more than it was a couple years ago, and that's with a 358-mile range, which is honestly pretty dang competitive. It's very rare to find any EV out there that's like sub $60,000 with a range that high, so I can see why it sells well. But as unfortunate as it may be, I have to imagine like a $53,000 Model 3 with like a 260-mile range, but you get to charge to 100% every day, would probably still sell given it's the cheapest Tesla and the demand is off the charts already. So Tesla can basically just raise that bar of excellence that they require as a standard in their vehicle. Not to mention, it would definitely just be kind of nice for Tesla to streamline things a bit and say, hey, all the vehicles we make are dual motor, all of our Teslas in 2023 are all-wheel drive, and I have to imagine, similar to them doing a dual motor at Giga Texas with a standard range model, adding in that additional front motor is not going to be that much extra cost, but they can easily charge an extra $5,000 or $6,000 more for it. So I'm not like 100% convinced this is going to happen. You know, I don't have sources or anybody telling me this is what Tesla is planning, but I do think it's important to keep expectations realistic and understand that the way Tesla is running their company at Giga Texas may expand into other factories, which is that in the future, it might make more sense for Tesla to prioritize scaling production and use fewer cells per car as long as there's people willing to pay for them. And it sounds like Tesla is going to use as many 2170 cells as they can, as well as many LFP batteries as they can. So if they realize that they can secure higher profit margins by making higher-end Teslas that still are rocking lithium iron phosphate, they may very well consider that, you know, especially in the future if they're expanding on like Model 3 assembly lines at Giga Berlin. They can get those single-piece castings or try to do a structural LFP pack. It might actually make a ton of sense for the company to just keep shipping standard range vehicles that have all-wheel drive because you can justify the price because you're like, hey, this is a fast car. How many all-wheel drive sedans are you gonna find out there? While at the same time being like, yeah, LFP is gonna cover it for most people because you can charge it to 100% every single day. And even though rear-wheel drive vehicles are more efficient, Tesla doesn't seem to mind as much because there's likely lots of regenerative braking advantages with the dual motor powertrain, and it's really not that much extra weight. As you can see, the difference between the rear-wheel drive Model 3 and the long range, the efficiency is not terribly different, but if they move more and more vehicles to become LFP in the future, restricting all of them to rear-wheel drive may not be that much of a requirement. Rivian has already already announced that they want to make the standard range battery packs in their vehicles with LFP, and employees have told us that they're already using LFP batteries in their delivery vans. So this is not just some kind of entry-level cheap car battery chemistry. This might be the type of battery you find in everyday Teslas, even the ones with higher prices and better acceleration. Again, I should be clear, I don't want this stuff to happen. I don't think it's gonna be great for the end consumer because it will probably mean higher prices, but it's an expectation I think we should have as demand continues to grow, and Tesla is nowhere close enough to catching up with their current production capacity, even though they're expanding their factories literally as fast as possible. Do you guys think it makes sense for Tesla to offer more standard range all-wheel drive vehicles? Honestly, if they made like a cheaper version of the Model S that was, say, under $90,000 with an LFP pack, I bet the margins on it would still be really, really good. I just happen to be one of those people that don't care too much about range. Like, I'm okay if my road trip lasts like an extra 40 minutes to an hour, but I would still love that awesome interior design they chose on the Model S and X with the yoke and the big landscape display. So I would love to see LFP come even into the luxury vehicles and just have a lower range overall, but if people are willing to put up with that and pay the high price for it, then Tesla gets the benefit of it, and we could get cheaper versions of the Model S and X. All those kinds of ideas, let me know what you're thinking down below. Thank you to everyone on Patreon supporting the channel and making these videos a reality. Seriously, helps out a ton, as does just watching these videos, so take care. Have a great day.